Hi guys, welcome back to Jolie Knots. I'm Crystal, and today we are going to be making this journal. Well, not this exact journal. We're going to make another version of it. This one holds 5 signatures all the way through, and we're going to do this with a no-sew method. Now, what I mean by no-sew is none of these signatures are sewn in, which means that each signature in its own is completely removable. Now you can sew each signature on its own. I chose not to sew each signature on its own, so that way if I wanted to move anything from each of the signatures, I can do that also. So we're gonna go over how to make these today. And we're going to use 2.5 sheets of your 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. And I'm gonna use a Cheez-It box. You know me, I love my Cheez-Its. So I'm gonna use a Cheez-It box. Now, the thickness of this box, I did not change the thickness of this box. So it's 2 1/3 inches. And it fits 5 signatures. Now, I don't have the attention span, I think, to fill 5 full signatures. So I'm gonna make one and we're gonna cut that in half. I'm gonna put 3 signatures in it. So I think that's what I'm gonna do for what I'm gonna use, and then I'll like post this one on Etsy once I'm done adding things to it. I just put some of the scrap pages here, so that way, you know, I can use what's going to match in here to kind of create more. I've also gone through and sewn edging into some of the pages and give it more of a design. All of these pages we have coffee dyed. The coffee dyed sheets, we've dyed these sheets of paper as well. I'll link those videos below. And we used stencils to be able to dye sheets with these kind of designs, and I'll link that video below also. For each signature's cover, I used another sheet of scrapbook paper to make like a folder out of each of the 5 signatures. So we've got 5 signatures there, and each one has like a scrapbook page cover that creates like a little folder for it. So what we're gonna do first, your first step, is to grab any sort of like food box. If I want to do a smaller one, I could use like a brownie mix box. If you want to do a bigger one, you could do like a cereal box. It just depends on the size that you want. I'm gonna stick with the Cheez-It size, and then just make my my binding here smaller. Just open it up. And we're just gonna cut each panel out. If you keep yours thick, like the one with 5 signatures, if you're wanting to keep yours thick like this, you don't need to cut this middle panel out. Just leave the middle panel there, and we can use it like that. I'm gonna cut mine shorter. Okay, let's make sure these are the same size. Yes. So this is gonna be my front and my back cover, and then this is gonna be my spine. So I want my spine to be 1.5 inches. So let me cut this crease off of here. And now I want it to be 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna measure my clean line to the size I want. And now we have 3 pieces. Okay, so now with our 3 pieces, okay, we're gonna take our masking tape and we're gonna basically bind these together again. Masking tape is easy to work with. Okay, now I'm just gonna flip this around, and I'm gonna leave a little bit of space for the binding to fold over. Just like that. Like, I don't know, what is that, like 1/8 of an inch? Not even 1/8 of an inch. See? And now we're gonna do the same thing on the back side. We're just gonna burnish it down. Okay, now we're gonna do this side. Now that we have this all together, what we're going to do is cut to size that we want. So I want mine to fit a standard size US paper, so I don't have to trim so much of the sides. I'm a little bit lazy. So I'm gonna fold this in half, and this is the width of the signature that I want. So I will have to trim the top, which is fine, but I won't have to trim the top and the sides. So what I'm going to do is mark right about there is where I want the edge to go. And we're gonna take a 1/2 inch off this side also. Okay, and now we have the same exact book, but a little bit thinner with a thinner binding. And now we're going to bring in our scrapbook paper. So which and where do we want the front? So when we're measuring for the front, we want to make sure for the front or the back or the sides, whatever it is going to be, we want our scrapbook paper to butt up like right along here and not fold over, so that way it doesn't impede it closes. And then we want it to be hanging over just enough to be able to fold it in onto the other side, like over the top, but it's going to be, then we're going to put another sheet on the other side. I want this to be where my cover is. So I'm just measuring from the edge of the left side, and then I'm going to measure over where I want, how much I want to fold over. So it's about 1 centimeter. So I'm going to make a mark on the edge of my left side with no overhang, so I know where I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to measure this way how much overhang I want on each side. And I'm going to cut there. And then I have another line right here. So now this is my front cover. So but coming all the way up to here, I have space to fold it over on each side. And so what I'm gonna do here is just to make a mark on each part so that I can score it and have a nicer fold. Okay, so once you've got all your sides folded up, now this should fit perfectly right on top. So once we put the glue on, everything is just gonna sit and fold right over. See? So that's what we're gonna do next. And I'm gonna use quick dry tacky glue. And I'm just gonna put glue all over. I want it to have a nice, good, strong binding. Okay, then I'm gonna take this and set it into place. Make sure that it sits in my little cubby I made for it. And now, I'll burnish it down. And now we'll cut the edges. You're gonna leave just an ever so slight like little space after your corner. just a little teeny tiny one. That way they can fold over each other. See, so we'll put some more glue. Okay, and now the outside of our front cover is done. And now we're gonna do the same thing for the back side. Now the size of this, I don't think, yeah, I don't really have enough to actually fold it over, which was the same problem with this, which was fine because since I didn't have to fold it over, I actually used it for the inside. So you're gonna take my next 12 by 12 for the back. And then we're gonna do that same kind of measurement and see exactly where do I want everything sitting here. I think I want to do it like this. So we have a little overhang to fold over down here. And then we're gonna have a little overhang to fold over this way. And then now we're gonna move it and measure this way. And see how much overhang we want here. So about like that. And then we're going to cut. Okay, and now we're cut, and I'm going to mark where I want my scoring. Score here, score here, score here. All right, and now we're gonna make sure it fits before we glue it. Like a glove. Okay, now let's glue it down. Okay, so now we're gonna take our half paper and we are going to do the same thing with the border, or I'm sorry, with the binding. So I'm just going to measure. I'm not gonna have any overlap on the sides. So I'm just measuring exactly how big, wide I need this. And now I'm gonna make 2 of those. Okay, so this is the front, and don't worry about this seam. We'll either like color it with marker to make it dark before we put either lace on it or crochet or maybe even denim. Okay, so we're gonna glue this on. Okay, yay, now we have the whole outside cover done, almost. Now we are going to put the inside. So I'm gonna cut this one pretty exact. I'm just gonna leave a teensy tiny overhang right there. Just a little teensy tiny one. This one's just gonna go right inside of it. It's not gonna wrap over. And we're gonna glue this one right on there. Now I am trying to get the glue all the way to the edges, so none of these edges start lifting up. We don't want any edges to lift up onto the front. Now the leftover that we had with our front pages, so with these ones, these sheets should fit almost perfectly on the front, like this. We just have a teensy weensy bit of trimming to do. So decide where you want it and where you, need to trim it. Remember, we're coming just inside of this border. This one's coming all the way up. We're not leaving a border inside here. And then along the top. So, and then this little slice, and it fits perfectly, and we'll glue it on. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Which side do we want on the top? I'm going to do it like this because we're going to have a little pocket to go on this corner. Like that. And then I'm going to cut this part there. Absolutely perfect. Okay, and now we've got it. So now we decide, do we want a lace, a ribbon? Do I have enough of this black ribbon? I could put a ribbon along the whole thing on the inside or the outside. I don't have enough of that though. Do I want this one again? I really like that cute little, well, I decide that. Let's put our pockets on. These two leftover pieces, they're gonna be our pockets. Take my corner punch and give that one little punch there. So it's got a little rounded edge. I'm going to take my ink and ink the edges and give it a little bit of definition. For that one. And for that corner. But I'm gonna glue these on and we're just gonna glue one edge, two edges, and we're gonna leave the rest open. Careful not to glue your pockets on the outside cover. Make sure you glue it on the inside of the cover. Let's line it up again. And for the other side. Now we're almost done and we just need to do the sides here. Okay, so we are gonna go with the same lace, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a black marker and I'm just gonna color the masking tape inside, just so it doesn't show through. Once it's black, you're not gonna be able to notice. Or at least not through the lace. You can use a Sharpie, you can use whatever kind of marker. This is that's not really dry yet. Let me come back to that. This is an acrylic marker. Okay, And now I'm going to start from the outside and then have them meet on the inside. So I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I'm just going to fill this gap in generously so my lace doesn't go anywhere. And give it a little smear. Now this glue dries clear, so I don't have to worry about this seeping glue. It'll be fine, it dries clear. Now before I glue that one down, I'm just gonna cut it. Now we're gonna do the other side. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay, so it does have a little bit of a bend to it right now, but you'll see how it straightens out once it's dry. I'm just gonna let it stand right there until it's dry. Okay, so now that it's dry and everything's moving nicely, it's time to put some corner edges on. So I'm gonna use the antique bronze color. I'm running out of those. I need to get some more. 4, we need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And now we're just gonna take some pliers. I'm just gonna go over each edge and then tighten them on. Okay, so now that that is done, it is going to be time to work on our signatures. Hello, Tuxie. Okay, so our signature size is going to be, should be 5.5 inches wide, just under 5.5. And then the height, it should be cut at 8 inches. Yeah, let's do 8 inches for height. Now, when I'm doing my signatures, what I want to make sure is that I have a wide variety of papers. So I've got some graph paper, I've got some book paper, I've got some coloring book pages. And so really what we're gonna do, I want 3 signatures in this book. So I'm gonna take 3 of each one and then go ahead and start piles. So 1 pile, 2, 3, set these aside. 1, 2, 3. We can make pages with this one. So I'm just gonna glue these together to make one long page. Okay, so I've got 3 for each of those. And then this one, I want this one to be, let's see. Should be like that, and then I'll trim some of this off. So the page looks like this. And then we will glue this on to make the rest of the other page. Okay, so there's one coloring book page for one of them. And then we've got another coloring book page that we can do. Finish going through the rest of your pages and getting them signature ready. I'm just trimming some down that are too short so they can create full pages. And then we'll go ahead and start moving on to the scrapbook papers and the other pages and start trimming them all down. Okay, so I have my piles so far with the regular size paper, but now I'm moving on to the scrapbook paper. So I need to trim those down really first to kind of get them into the signatures space. Okay, so we are 11 inches. We've got these strips to save for later. Okay, so 11 inches, and now we need 8 inches. Okay, so one of each of these for each of these piles. Then we need a cover for each of them. I like to make the covers with a folded pocket. Okay, so these three, 11 inches, remember? The strips for later. But instead of cutting these to 8 inches, we're gonna score it and fold it to create a pocket. So we're gonna score it at 8 inches. And then we're gonna score it again at 5.5. And now, if we could see this line here, we're gonna snip this out at an ever so slight angle so it doesn't like buckle when it folds up together. See, like that? And if you like, you can go ahead and snip the inside of the corners. This gives it a little bit of a nice, neater look. There we go. See? And then that will be the front cover of the signature. So we've got one. Now we're going to do two. So remember, we're scoring at 8 inches and then at 5.5 inches. So 5.5 inches when we're at our, when we're at 11 inch width. Then the 5.5 is in the middle. So once you're at 11 inches here, we're going 5.5. And then 8 inches this way. So we should have a pocket that's 4 inches deep. And then the last one. Okay, so now we have our signatures. We're gonna set them up how we want them. So I'm gonna take one of these and then I'm gonna take line paper. Okay, this is our entire signature. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get everything together nicely. Line it all up, and then we're gonna trim off anything that's over 8 inches high or 5.5 inches wide. Now moving on to the next one. Remember, we're gonna have a total of 3. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is decorate any of these, like as far as the sewing machine goes. It's difficult to sew inside of the book. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to pull the sewing machine out and sew around these, keep my pockets in place, and just put along any sort of decor that I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera, and then I will meet you back in here so that I can show you how we're gonna put these all inside our signatures inside of our journal. No sew method. So just like this, a no sew method. Okay, now that all our signatures are done, here comes the fun part. We are going to be putting everything into our book. No needles, no sewing. I use the sewing machine to decorate, but you can do that with tape, glue, pens, markers, whatever. You don't need the sewing machine for that. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab some twine or string or anything like that. Okay, we're gonna start here in the back about the length of the book. Okay, then we're gonna take the first, I'm gonna switch this around. We're gonna take your first signature, now open it up. We're gonna wrap the twine around that and then back around the back of the book. Okay. Now we're gonna take our next one. We're gonna do the same thing. Wrap down and then back around to the top. And last, down, and then back over. Okay, so now we have our twine, and we want to make sure that everything is nice and tight. Everything is together. And now what we're gonna do is take each side of our twine and go underneath the other, but not all the way through. So it's gonna look kind of like this. And then this side is gonna do the same thing, just like that. And now you're gonna grab, like your ends are gonna go in between. So we're gonna pull up here, and then this one is gonna pull up through here. And so now when we tie it, all of our strings and strands stay together right here in the middle. And I'm just going to put a bow. I don't need a knot, just in case I feel like I want to change something inside of here. But there we go. This is the first completed portion, and each, if I wanted to like add something into here, say for example, I want this short piece of paper. The coolest part about this is I can add it wherever I want. So I can just slide it right in wherever, and then see it comes right out the other side. And now it's just an addition. See that? So the next step that I'm going to do before I really start digging into this book is to ink the edges. I'm going to use a VersaFine Onyx. And so what I'm doing is I'm really just distressing the edges of my book. to give it like an aged look. And then I'm just gonna flip through each page as I go and do the same thing. Now when I'm doing these edges, I'm not super worried if it's gonna get on any of the pages below it, because I'm creating it to be a distressed look. I want it to do that. We're not trying to go fancy here. I mean, unless you want to. I just kind of want, you know, the distressed edging and the nice different look of everything. Thank you everyone for joining me while I create this journal base. Lots of writing space, lots of background imaging to like get started on art and thinking about all the different kind of stuff that you can do with this. What I'm going to do with mine is use it as my common space / planner / bullet journal / art journal / pretty much an all-in-one. So it's like my 3 subject. So if you follow this series of the Celestial Journal, Metaphysical Journal, whatever it is that we're going to end up calling it, I'm not even sure. Maybe I'll take a poll with you guys. And then you can kind of see how I'm going to really start decorating it, how I'm going to set it up for my daily use. And then I will probably be adding to the other journal at the same time and kind of just create 2 of them at once. So if somebody does want to purchase the 5 subject or the 5 signature, then you can go ahead and do that. But once that's ready, I'll go ahead and post that on my Etsy. So thank you everybody for being here. Don't forget that there are links in the description box for all of the tutorials for the paper that we've dyed, or any other tutorials that I've done that should link to this book as well. And we will see you next time. Stick around. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the playlist for all of the paper craft tutorials. Love you guys.